then what if you get like, ooh, and then you fake us out? Oh, what? Oh, how? Clock. So we're going to begin. Has everybody signed up or everybody ready? Chief Repka, is there a line to get in or something? Okay, you make sure you get that door open. Let everybody in. Scott Warnicki, this isn't church. You can come up here on the front row. Thank you all for being here tonight. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 625217, that the city of Smithville will conduct a city council meeting on March 11, 2024 at 5 o'clock p.m. Oops. Well, it's at 6 o'clock p.m. at City Hall located 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. I call the meeting to order. Councilman Etheridge, would you please lead us?
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather this evening and for our many blessings. May we be mindful of the benefits that accrue to each of us as residents of the Smithville community and as citizens of this great country. Please, Father, cause us each to be more aware of those around us who are less fortunate and move us to take action to help them. Be with those who are suffering or grieving, that they might be comforted, and be with those too who might be separated from family. Watch over and protect the men and women in uniform who serve our country, both here and abroad, as well as our first responders, teachers, and faith leaders. And please, Father, give this council the wisdom and vision to make the best decisions for our community as a whole and the ability to work together in harmony and with mutual respect, even when there are honest disagreements. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Oh, shoot.
Councilman Jenkins, will you please read the proclamation for Vietnam Veterans Day?
Whereas on January 12, 1962, United States Army pilots lifted more than 1,000 South Vietnamese service members over jungle and underbrush to capture a National Liberation Front stronghold near Saigon. Operation Chopper marked America's first combat mission against the Viet Cong and the beginning of one of our longest and most challenging wars. Through more than a decade of conflict that tested the fabric of our nation, the service of our men and women in uniform stood true. Today, we honor the more than 3 million Americans who served. We pay tribute to those we have laid to rest, and we reaffirm our dedication to showing a generation of veterans the respect and support of a grateful nation. And whereas the Vietnam War is a story of service members of different backgrounds, colors, and creeds who came together to complete a daunting mission, it is a story of Americans from every corner of our nation who left the warmth of family to serve the country they loved. It is a story of patriots who braved the line of fire, who cast themselves into harm's way to save a friend, who fought hour after hour, day after day to preserve the liberties we hold dear. From I Drang to Hugh, we won every major battle of the war and upheld the highest traditions of our armed forces. And whereas 11 years of combat left their imprint on a generation, thousands returned home bearing shrapnel and scars. Still more were burdened by the invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress, of Ancient Orange, of memories that would never fade. More than 58,000 laid down their lives in service to our nation. Now and forever, their names are etched into two faces of black granite, a lasting memorial to those who bore conflict's greatest cost. And whereas Our veterans answered our country's call and served with honor. And on March 29th, 1973, the last of our troops left Vietnam. Yet in one of the war's most profound tragedies, many of those men and women came home to be shunned or neglected, to face treatment unbefitting their courage and a welcome unworthy of their example. We must never let this happen again. Today, we reaffirm one of our most fundamental obligations to show all who have worn the uniform of the United States the respect and dignity they deserve, and to honor their sacrifice by serving them as well as they served us. Over half a century after those helicopters swept off the ground and into history, we pay tribute to the fallen, the missing, the wounded, the millions who served, and the millions more who awaited their return. Our nation stands stronger for their service, and on Vietnam Veterans Day, we honor their proud legacy with our deepest regard.
Now therefore I, Sharon Forrester, Mayor of the City of Smithville, do hereby proclaim March 29th, 2024 as Vietnam Veterans Day. In the City of Smithville, Texas, I urge all citizens to join me in recognizing their dedication and sacrifice of our Vietnam veterans. Do we have any Vietnam veterans here? Would you please stand up to be recognized, sir? Proclamation for Milton's Furniture's 75th anniversary. Councilman Etheridge?
Don, I hope I get this name pronounced right. I got a hard one too with Etheridge. It's usually all I's. Whereas the city of Smithville is honored to recognize from time to time significant accomplishments and contributions by businesses in our community. Whereas Milton's Furniture is one such business, recently celebrating 75 years in business in Smithville. Whereas Milton's was founded in 1948 by the late Milton Mushnick as a radio service, sales, and repair business on Main Street. When the first television station began operations in Austin, the company added TV sales and service. Shortly after the introduction of TVs, Milton's expanded to offer a full line of GE major appliances, which created a need for even additional floor space. The company's growth led to the construction of a new building on Texas 71, now Loop 230, where it remains and operates today. Throughout the years, several additions were made, extending floor space for a complete line of name brand furniture, bedding, appliances, and accessories. The business is still owned and operated by Milton's dedicated family members and employees who practice the same values as originated by Milton, including customer satisfaction, honesty, reliability, service, and quality merchandise. In 2008, the company added a warehouse directly across the street from the existing store to offer more in-stock items. Impressively, Milton's Furniture has been voted #1 furniture store in Bastrop County every year since 2011. Whereas it is wholly fitting that this body pause in its deliberations to formally recognize this outstanding local business and its owners and employees.
Now therefore I, Sharon Forrester, and the City Council of the City of Smithville, Texas, hereby adopts this proclamation as evidence of its commitment to support and recognize the accomplishments of local businessmen and business owners. The City Council and the City of Smithfield today hereby honor and commend Milton's Furniture upon the celebration of its 75th anniversary and applaud its contribution to our community. I gotta come up here. You have to come up here.
Come up here. Make sure you get all the generations. The cutest one is still sitting over there.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thanks to the city, all you guys up there for all our fine friends and neighbors. Thank y'all very much. For you, for 75 years.
Aw. Colin Butler. Make sure I get it right. Aw.
Okay, next on our agenda, we're going to have a presentation by the Smithville Workforce Training Center. And Alan Butler couldn't be here tonight, so we're going to have one of our case managers, Miss Nerian Benitez. If you go ahead and come on forward, Miss Nerian, and give us this beautiful presentation. Thank you. for here.
Welcome. Is your mic on? Go ahead and,
It's green.
there you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Nerian Benitez. I'm a case manager at Smithville Workforce Training Center. So I'll be presenting the PowerPoint for Alan. What we do at the workforce, we serve the Bastrop, Caldwell, Fayette, and Lee County area. Primary focus on the rural workforce training. We consult with local businesses to understand their employment needs. We develop training programs based on high demands, skill sets, and jobs. We assist students in job placement upon program completion. Funding resource, we are funded through the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the Reinvest Good Job Challenge Grant for $4.8 million in the Bastrop County ARPA grant for $750,000. Hospital Authority Board, St. David's Foundation, Rural Whole Health Coalition, City of Smithville, the Texas Mutual 40,000 OSHA Safety Training in Construction and Transportation, the Methodist Healthcare Ministries, business partners in the community. Programs we offer are the medical, allied health, skilled trades, public safety, finance, internet technology. In the medical field, we have the certified nursing assistant. Cost of program is 100% paid for, and the students work and earn while completing the class with 100% job placement. Most successful program up to date, up to 200 plus graduates from that class. We also have the licensed vocational nurse. We can pay up to $8,000 towards a degree, and the registered nurse, we can pay up to $10,000 towards the degree. On the allied health, we have the dental hygienist, the paramedic, advanced EMT, vet tech, medical assistants, and the phlebotomist. On the skilled trades, we have the CDL class, HVAC class, plumbing, electrical, welding, carpentry, and manufacturing are coming soon, and the roofing, I think that one's coming soon too, so. In public safety, we have EMT, paramedic, firefighters, security guards, certified medical aid, and correctional officers. In the finance department, we have bookkeepings, QuickBooks certification, and the National Association of Certified Public Bookkeepers certificate. We're also working with banks on that. Internet technology, IT courses, there's 11 different courses. We prefer upskilling assistant employees with CompTIA, network administration, cybersecurity, programming, web development, and network support. How can you help and benefit? You can become a strategic partner and attend our sectorial meetings, become a sponsor at a program graduation, donate funds, equipment, or your time and expertise, help recruit and send an employee to one of our programs. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with Alan or anyone at the workforce and we can help. Any questions? I'm sorry, I'm nervous. It's my first time.
Well, you did very well. Anybody have a question?
Question. I know that when we approved the lease on agreement on the building on Fawcett, one of the conditions was that they would come back periodically and present kind of updates. Is this considered one of those updates? Is that what it is? Okay, thank you.
Any other question? No? Thank you.
Next item is It's Time Texas Community Challenge, and Judy is going to enlighten us on this. Hello, Judy.
Hello. Jose would be the one here today, but he was not well, so he texted me and said, could I please do this? So it's a proclamation in recognition of City Hall staff, the commitment to the 2024 It's Time Texas Community Challenge. But before I start the proclamation, I also wanted to give a shout out to the library staff or the library team that were a competitive part of the It's Time Texas Community Challenge, but it also served to have us work together as a team, doing exercises together while we were straightening the shelves and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. Whereas the city of Smithville cares about the health and well-being of its employees, and whereas the city of Smithville leadership recognizes the importance that employer encouragement can make in terms of employee participation in health-related activities. And whereas City Hall staff participated with enthusiasm in the It's Time Texas Community Challenge every year since 2018, including 2024. And whereas the city of Smithville has won the It's Time Texas Community Challenge for 7 consecutive years in the extra small community category, the population between 1 and 5,000. And they logged 1,312,450 points with over 100 community participants. And whereas Jose Rivera, the city's new community engagement coordinator, and Caroline Noya led the charge and brought the team together nearly every day for many weeks of this challenge. And whereas many City Hall employees were among the top 20 on the ITT leaderboard for Smithville, and whereas as an employer, the city of Smithville ranked 17th. And whereas the ITT challenge activities led to a greater team building among the City Hall and other city staff participants, and whereas the City Hall team decided to continue with some of the daily activities that they had started due to the positive impact of on the group throughout the day. And
Or the city of Smithville proclaims its support for the City Hall staff and all the other city employees and residents who have made this such a fun and engaging community program. Each participant is presented with a medallion for their efforts and to encourage them to continue to make their health a priority every day. Dated this 11th day of March 2024 in Smithville, Texas. Thank you.
I have the awards for the City Hall participants who will be receiving the medallions, and a few of them are here tonight, so I'm going to bring them up and have them get their awards. I will bring one to Robert Campbell, but also Jennifer Lynch and Cynthia White, and an honorary City Hall employee, Caroline Noya. Actually, these say City Hall Champion 2024, and then they have the city logo on the back. So I just wanted to add, Caroline came up twice a day and pulled everybody out of their offices to stretch, to get ready for each day in the mornings. And she made them dance in the afternoons so that they were productive for the rest of the afternoon. So thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you for your choice of music. It was very uplifting. Thank you, everybody that participated. This presentation on the Recycling Center, Councilman Jenkins and Councilman Tyrone Washington.
Yeah, everyone, thank you all for everyone that is participating in the recycling program. We have over 400 memberships now, or well, at 400 memberships, I will say that. The community's being engaged. We also have, we're going to have 2 classes that are going to be on composting and also about different kinds of recycling by Stacy Savage from Zero Waste Management. Those will happen in probably April, and we will get that. We have the contract with Keep Texas Recycling, who will be handling our recycling products that we get to sell. We have that contract before us, and I believe Robert and I will probably talk to them. Tyrone has been by to make sure the recycling center stays clean and doing everything with that. He's made sure the signs have gone up. Everything is looking really good. I'd really like to thank Edward and his team for all of the stuff that they have done. Your man there, he keeps it immaculate. The people are really, it just looks good. The recycling center has changed a whole lot. We want to thank all of you. I'm hoping that next year, all the fees will go down because we have so much participation, which we never expected, that we will be able to do this at a less rate so that we can get more people involved in it. And that's about it. Thank you.
Councilman Jenkins, by my rough math, you said you had 400 memberships. I estimate that to be $30,000.
Right at 30,000,
So
somewhere in
you've
that
almost
area.
cut the deficit in half.
Yes.
I
yes,
thank you very much, sir.
Yes, that's where we're working for.
Your work. It shows. Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the February 12th, 2024 council meeting and the public hearing on February 28th, 2024, special called council meeting and public forum. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
A motion's been made and second, all in favor. 1, 2.
Can I ask one question, please? It has to do, there's reference in here, we did appointments to the library board. I noticed that there's a teen member that's vacant. I was going to ask Judy when she was up here, is there a prospect for filling that? I don't hate to bring you back up, but I was just curious because seems like that would be an important one.
We have just started our teen community nights once a month. We're meeting with teens and we've had them come in a couple other times. So yes, there is a good prospect of filling that position from the teens that are participating in library programs.
Next item is general public comment. Maybe I'll find out.
This one, Dax.
State your name. Thank you.
Max Haverlack, 779 Peach Creek, Rosanke, Texas. We pay taxes towards Smithville. Y'all have done some pretty impressive efforts through 2023. I've recently gotten done watching about the entirety of last year's recorded messages to kind of get up to speed, similar as I did to Bastrop. I usually speak in Bastrop city councils as well. So last Sunday I said, I have about 6 hours. Why not just go through your website?
6 hours today?
6 hours on Sunday.
Oh, sorry.
I have about enough time. I've heard that y'all got a new website, and I spoke at Bastrop City Council about their website. It has a lot of lingering documentations, a lot of broken links, just, a general disarray throughout years of accomplishments. So I have an excerpt from the History of Smithville tab from the Bastrop, or from Smithville. It includes some of the copy pastes from y'all's quotes matched up to currents. So let's go with it. The thriving community has officially incorporated as of the city of Smithville in 1895. City leaders recognize the importance of education and creation of the Smithville School District. Now, only 4 schools, most notably the actions of 1969-1970, which was the legal giving of 3 Negro students to Jeddo Common School District, which allowed the school to maintain its funding, an action that the city encouraged to maintain de facto segregations of the community. This is documented by the city's websites and court documents linked from city website. And the most recently, the 2009 award of Texas Education Agency for academic acceptability. At the time of 1895, Smithville was the largest city of Bastrop County. Census figures from 19 to 1910 show 3,500 residents, 19 businesses, including 2 hotels, 14 grocery stores, 5 saloons, several medical practices, dentists, a bank, and a newspaper. Our population now sits at 1447, or 4047 per the 2021 census report, a growth of about net 5 per year, and a population downward trending in recent. I recently went through that Sunday scraping most of the city's website, finding 2015 or 215 businesses of various degrees of employment, most playing double duty, including nonprofits, churches, and government staffing. A count of about 8 hotels down, or was it 2 hotels, now down to 8. This includes the Airbnbs, 1 grocery store down from 14, maybe 2 if you count the 7-Eleven in town, which the city does count under your records. 3 saloons down from 5, 21 medical. Y'all didn't have a number of the old records. 3 entire whole banks up from 1, and sadly 0 newspapers. 1980 or 1895, Smithville was a modern town with indoor plumbing and electricities. Today, pretty much, yeah. Nearly all dwellings in the cities are equipped with adequate plumbing, electricity, telephone services, although the infrastructure, both public and private, is antiquated and rapidly approaching a quick decline. City governments.
What's your 3 minutes?
Okay, I got another page.
Well, we're gonna cut it off at 3 minutes, but you're welcome to sign up next month and condense it down.
All right, so,
Thank you.
but I thank y'all. I'm
Thank you very
ready,
much.
excited for another year of attending y'all's meetings and seeing where, 1895 to 2025 and 23-25 is going to look like in terms of city representation, city management,
Thank you.
and how y'all will be. Thank y'all.
Was anybody else signed up? Not, okay, so item 7, discussion and, oh, me? Oh, sorry, Lee. Please state your name and where you live.
Hi, Lee
Thank you.
Kilgore, 403 Ramona. Thank you for having us tonight. The first time I met Steve Simmons was at Honey's after a rainstorm. He said the water was rushing into his restaurant because his floor was lower than the street. My house in Houston had 22 inches of water in it after Tropical Storm Allison, which destroyed my house. I rebuilt 4 feet up on a pier and beam. Very concerned about Hurricane Harvey and that 4 feet wasn't high enough. So I'm familiar with flood mitigation and drainage projects. The General Land Office Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Project has been in the works for 6 years. It's a drainage project to mitigate flooding. The project before council today is the second part of that project. This project is only possible through the grant. The city worked hard to get funding and spent a lot of time discussing the project with the community. Last year, Smithville hosted several hot topic huddle meetings with Lori Vincent, which brought to light the ways Smithville can address improvements in walkability and marketing our downtown businesses and city to encourage more visitors. The meetings were very informative and brought to light what could be in Smithville. It also brought to light that Smithville doesn't have the funds currently to do a lot of the projects and that improvement opportunities would be discussed in the comprehensive plan. The ABC's meeting that was held on March the 4th was a great opportunity to hear what residents and businesses are concerned about regarding the drainage plan. The activities of the group provided open dialogue that I think benefits the city greatly. I do think there's confusion that the beautification of sidewalks and what Lori Vincent addressed in her hot topic huddles with economic development could be added to the drainage project. These are 2 very different programs with 2 very different funding sources. The drainage project is a grant, and economic development and comprehensive plan is city funded. We may find grants with Lori Vincent and Jill Strubbe's help, but that's to be determined. The comprehensive plan kicks off in March, and I'm hopeful that the ABC's group and the many residents and business owners that attended the meeting on Monday, March 4th, will also attend future city council meetings to ensure that we keep the dialogue open and transparent. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Do we have anyone else? Not,
For item 6, I have somebody for 7, however you want to take that.
thank you. Discussion on the introduction and update of the GLO Resilient Communities Program, RCP Comprehensive Plan. I'm gonna let Miss Jerry speak and then we'll have the signed up. Welcome.
Welcome. It's good to be here. I'm excited to give you an update and just let you know what's going on, Mayor, Council, and community. A little note about this program. Smithville was the first to apply. This is a new program with the General Land Office. Smithville was the first to get your application in. It took a while to get through the system. No fault of anyone's other than general GLO administrative system to put it together, but we're finally off and rolling and running full speed ahead. So tonight I want to give you just an overview of what's going on, what we're doing behind the scenes, an introduction of the key stakeholders, the planning committee that will be taking part in this wonderful program, and the Langford team who's working diligently behind the scenes to make sure everything's on track, everything's submitted on time, all the requirements are met and put together for the General Land Office. Okay. So the team here tonight, I have a few of the team with us. Our leader, Judy Langford, who many of you know, as this year she celebrated 40 years in the grant business. So we call her the Queen of the Grants, and she knows everything about most grants and has her hand, if not directly, indirectly on everything that we do. I'm Jerry Conrado. I am the team manager and will be your community engagement leader with the program, keeping things on track behind the scenes with GLO. Dennis Koo is here tonight with representing Langford as well. He's a senior engineer and he'll give you a little update and insight to what's going on with the data collection and that side. Tim Jenkins is here tonight, and he's our senior planner, cybersecurity specialist. When he met Jim, Jim said, "No, Jim," and he said, "No, I'm Tim." So we had two Jenkins introducing there, and that was kind of funny, I thought. We also have Tim with BEFCO, who's played a part on the LCMS team as well to help with data collection. Helen Willard is our GIS specialist who is busy CAD to GIS conversion, working with maps and doing a lot of things in that world. Kevin Coleman is a community relations specialist as well, who will be working in East Texas and that part of the state. We also have a couple of other Langforders here tonight, but I'll let them tell about themselves when they come up to talk about their program. So as we look at the grant, it's part of the Biden-Harris Infrastructure Grant. There's $300,000 that was available per community to write and update a comprehensive plan for the city focused on resiliency. At first they said, well, we're not sure about the 300,000, but we went to bat for your community and said, no, we need 300,000 because we want to make this plan. We want to make it digital. We want to make it usable. We want to make it useful for the plan, for the community to plan and the leaders within the communities to make good decisions. We want to involve the public comment much more than just an approval at the end. So there's much more community involvement in this process. And so they agreed and they gave us the full 300,000 for your community. So we're very excited about that. We do have to cover the bases. We have to make sure that the comprehensive plan deliverables cover hazards and risk, assessing what you've already done, your past plans, not only past comp plans, but past hazard mitigation plans and other studies, which Tim will give you a little insight on that in a minute of what we're doing there. Looking at your population 20 years out, looking at housing studies 10 years out, your land use plan, capital improvements, optional chapters, which all the communities are very excited about, but we've got to be sure that we really take care of the comp plan basics. And then the zoning ordinances to approve and look at new possible zoning ordinances that come out of these studies and the plan. And I know Smithville is very involved and they take their plan seriously. They utilize their plan. Robert, you've done a wonderful job of highlighting things that have been done, action items that were put out there and have been completed. So we're excited to not only review it, but integrate those pieces into the plan. I also know y'all have done a lot of housing huddles, studies, economic development, parks and recreation. You've taken a lot of time and effort, so we won't be duplicating efforts, but we will be reviewing everything that you've already done. As we look at the timeline, 24 months is what we're allowed. The contract kicked off in October of last year, and it's good for the end to be finished by December of 2025. We feel very confident we can compress this a little within 18 months, maybe not even that long. It's your plan, it's our work that will determine how fast we move through it, but always taking into account that we're doing all the work that needs to be done. The more updated your comprehensive plan, the easier it will be to work in some additional things. But months 0 through 4, which is where we are now, that's the initial GIS collection, drafting goals, drafting base studies, and the public meeting number 1. That's tonight. As we move through 6 to 12 months, we'll be looking at refining those capital improvements and the base studies and plans. We'll be looking at the stakeholder engagement, which I'll share with you in just a moment, what the first key stakeholder meeting will look like and what we'll be talking about. But into 12 months, we'll have the plan drafted, start looking at revisions, there always are, and really finalizing the plan, and then closing out the plan with the adoption of it and any additional zoning. Okay, next. So I won't go through everything, but I wanted to share with you all the pieces that are moving in the background. You may not see them all, but we are collecting data, creating GIS, CAD to GIS conversions. Tim, would you like to just talk for a minute about what we're doing in the current, reviewing the current plans and studies?
Cousin Jim on one side and former boss Bruno on the other side here. So I don't know how to be comfortable or not. What we're trying to do with your all plans and initiatives and studies is bring them into the language of resilience. We all pretty much know mitigation and what comes out of that are action items. So kind of think of that as your tactical plan. Resiliency becomes your long-term strategy. And what we want to do is filter everything through that you've done already and get it all identified and described the same way so that we can move forward and make sure we're integrating that into all those comprehensive plan elements that you have. So that's what we're working on right now. And soon enough, we'll have the results of that or the next meeting. Any questions on that?
And this is not optional. It is a milestone requirement from the General Land Office that to make sure that we're considering everything that's already been done and not recreating the wheel. So with that, go ahead one more. I'm going to let Dennis share with you more on the data collection and the base studies and what he's working on.
I'm Dennis Koo with Langford team. I'm basically responsible for the infrastructure portions of the capital improvement plan and the infrastructure portion of the plan. We have collected, I give you a little update where we're at. Tim was kind enough to share with us their maps of the water and wastewater system. So we started incorporating those into the tool, which I'll show you next, what we'll deliver to the city. That's basically what we see as the living part of this plan. I'm sorry. Yeah, so yeah, I will, we have actually collected the maps from BEFCO for the water and sewer systems for the city, and those will be incorporated into the digital part of the plan. And if you could go to the next slide, what we would like to create is a GIS-based tool, planning tool for the city that will be the living part of the plan where you can update, you can overlay various infrastructure systems and take a look at your zoning, buildings, infrastructure systems, parcels, and actually assist the city to do future planning, permitting, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that's the concept of what we're doing. And we're basically we pulled those water and sewer maps into that tool. And then we're going to start mapping the drainage, and we're ready to come out and do the field work for the rest of the roads and the drainage systems.
It makes a lot more sense, doesn't it, when you see the layers and how that builds into this digitized plan? Go ahead. So tonight I want to just highlight the coordination team here with us. Robert Tamble, of course, is very involved and instrumental in this project. Jennifer Lynch, Jill Struby, Jose Rivera, Sharon Forster, and Edward Balasek. We will count on you to just look at coordinating this plan. You'll be reviewing and participating from a different level than the key stakeholders. Go ahead, and these are the volunteers within your community who have not only taken an interest, but volunteered their time to participate with us. And they are key to steering the plan, looking at the public comments, making sure that everyone is heard and all the input is collected. If you're here tonight, let us know. If not, I'm sure, excuse me, I'm sure you all know who these people are. Erica O'Neill. Erica here. Joanna Morgan. Jace Jones. Cheryl Burns. Mike Murphy. Reverend, I'm sorry, I can't read that far. Exie Henry. Oh, there we go. Much better. Thank you. Pamela Noel, Tony Dudley, and Carol Jackson. So do you all know these people? You've heard their names, right? Because I'm sure they're very involved. They care. They have a passion for the future of Smithville, and we do appreciate their involvement. What they'll be doing, go ahead. We're going to be meeting with them. We decided to go ahead and push the first two meetings up for April and May, just because we kind of got the delay from the holiday season and things coming up into the new year. So we are going to meet the first Wednesday. The first meeting will be is it the second Wednesday? Robert, what was it? The third Wednesday there?
The third Wednesday.
Oh, I got it at the top. Yes, I forgot which Wednesday it was. So the first meeting is April 15th, the second, May 13th, and the third is July 15th. And what we'll be doing at the first kickoff meeting is reviewing the plans, the summary of the plans. We'll be collecting all their input and working on not the actual plan. It is the actual plan, but we'll be reviewing everything and just putting it all together. You have mentioned in the kickoff meeting early on that you would like community engagement in the form of online, Facebook, newspaper, in-person events like concerts in the park. I know y'all have festivals here, farmers market, to have a booth maybe. We'll figure out ways to be more interactive with the community and get as much input as we can.
I do have to make a correction. We had originally talked about the Mondays, but we moved into the Wednesdays, but the dates did not change on the slide. So 4/15 should be 4/17. The 5/13 should be 5/15. And the July meeting should be July 17th, all the third Wednesdays of the month. So apologies for that error.
Thank you, Robert. I didn't double check it. I just thought we had already decided that meeting and it was ready to go. So I'll be sure that's clear when we do make the announcements. Go ahead. So what we did is put together a community engagement marketing portal, and this is one of the items on the first key stakeholders meeting agenda, is to line out, when do we do press releases? When do you want to make a post for social media to update, to invite the public to participate on a survey, or just go look at the link and see what's going on in the community? So we want to make that easy and scheduled as much as possible so that it's not a, well, let's see, should we put a press release out? So we want to make sure that is very organized. And the exciting part of possible additional or optional chapters. The beauty of getting the whole 300,000 grant funding was that it will allow a little extra money to put into some additional chapter study. Still have to cover the bases, but some of the things that we've seen other communities and heard from you all are things like economic development, downtown revitalization, economic assessments of where you are with attracting new businesses to the area, water resources and water conservation. Being in Texas, most communities are very excited about that option. I'll give you a quick example though of what we're seeing. As we say, allow a little white space, everyone gets excited and they want it to be this. But what we saw with Wimberley, for example, they wanted to focus all their energy on water conservation study. But what we found was a possible additional grant through our research that could allow them not only additional funding, but to accomplish some projects they've done through a past study. So the beauty of allowing a little time with this additional chapters as we move into it is that we may discover things we didn't think about that would be available to supplement your plan. At first, we thought the grant opportunities would be a report at the end, but no, they come out as soon as we start doing the research for other opportunities to fund some of these wonderful programs for your community. Green infrastructure, nature-based solutions, parks and recreation, asset management plan, which will be required for future grants. We're seeing that piece very important as well. Common popular thing was a community mobile app. And this is another example. In the beginning, we thought, well, we could do an app for your community. But what we found was an example of Savvy Citizen. A lot of the communities are starting to use this. It's free. They have it's an app that goes on your community for your community to not really comment, but see things going on. Go take a survey, give us your input, a water main break, a this, a that. And it's the police, the fire, the different services that participate in this. So if you'll go up just a little bit more. So the structure inventory, we also discovered that kind of comes along with the plan, may not be outside it, just like the grant opportunities. We'll be discovering that along the way. So just go up one more. This is the Savvy Citizen. It's complimentary. City of Kennedy is using it now. It's very popular. It's growing organically. There's a training for your city to do it and for the citizens how to get on the app at no cost either way. So just something that is the beauty of kind of letting the plan flow and ebb into what we need it to be for your community. So that's it. Any questions?
Before you go to questions, I'd like to bring attention to the council, citizens, and the mayor. The key stakeholder organizations and key stakeholders, this was a first cut set. If you feel there's someone that's missing from that list, please let us know and we will add them. Jennifer, could you please pull up the presentation, the matrix? There's been concern amongst some citizens that feel that the comprehensive plan sits on the shelf. In 2007, I was a council member. This was the plan that was done by LCRA, Chris Holtkamp, for $200,000. It addressed land use, historic preservation, downtown revitalization, housing, community development, so forth and such. We took the book and actually made a matrix and assigned tasks to both city and community leaders to fulfill. And this is what you're looking at. Within 2.5 years, 75% of the actions identified in the plan were completed. Within 4 years, 95% of the plan was completed. So there is no intent, at least from my part, to let this sit on the shelf. A lot of work went into this, and I think we made some progress, and we're looking for feedback and input from you to, you got to understand where we've been to know where we're going. So this community feedback is monumental going forward. And although we have to address resilient communities, the little icing on the cake is we can add these additional chapters that address some of the more specific and pertinent information that the city and the community would like to see in the plan.
Absolutely.
Thank you. There's copies of this if you want to see that, if you want to pass it back. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very important for Smithville. We're doing that for a lot of communities, and Robert, you were so awesome on it and in it. Any other questions or comments?
Little bit, resiliency is obviously a central concept within this plan. By definition, resiliency is more about bouncing back from, and recovering, not so much about the creative aspect. It tends to be a lot more focused on risk identification, risk management, a lot of focus on infrastructure, hazardous materials, the types of things that, are very important. How much latitude when you talk about 18-month window of time, $300,000 of cost, how much of that time and dollars is necessarily required in order to meet the requirements of the grant? And how much latitude in terms of time and dollars do you just estimate that we might have to devote to more creative pursuits like true economic development, developing KPIs? How do we measure our economic success? How do we grow our pie so our tax base grows and we don't have to go to the citizens continually for increased taxes? Help us understand what kind of outcomes we might expect to have from this investment on those types of things.
Sure. And that's asked quite frequently, and it depends. Every community is different. Someone like Smithville is prepared and has a lot of additional studies, a lot of volunteers, a lot of input that you've already put together. So you're not going to require, let's say, 250,000 for the plan. We may see that that's more in the $200,000 range, and we have more money to spend on additional studies. Probably not as like a comprehensive master drainage plan, but something along those lines that your community wants, that can do some studies, identify some additional project scopes and costs, and also other grants that might be available. As far as resiliency, that this was intended to make communities more resilient, especially with the past storms and of all types. And you are in that corridor of Texas. And so identifying hazards, the risk associated with it, being able to recover quickly if you do have damage is one of the key focuses, or the primary focus that GLO is not only recommending, they're requiring.
Thank you. You got me.
Yeah, as part of a FEMA requirement, we are required to do a 5-year update to our emergency hazard mitigation plan, which we just did about 1.5 years ago. There's also a lot of other entities that require us to do emergency operations plan, like the Public Utilities Commission, TCEQ. So all these plans are already done, and you can lift and drop and then focus on the stuff that the people really want to see. Love you, GLO.
Yes.
I think to make one of the things that Robert, our city manager, is exceptional at is those sorts of risk management. Particularly for a small town, we have a lot of those studies and plans. I think I would consider ourselves to be very prepared for that.
Absolutely.
And so I think we're ahead of the game when it comes to the areas of resiliency.
Mhm.
So I'm hopeful that we can look more than a normal smaller town at things that are going to address kind of non-infrastructure, kind of the more sexier part of growing versus the unsexy part
Absolutely.
of a town. And when we look at the past, which I think you referenced, is go back and look at what we did, developing KPIs, measuring success. As Robert said, there was a plan done some time ago and 95% of those things were accomplished. how many businesses would we have on this town when we did that plan, and how many do we have today? What was our sale tax then versus today? What was our population versus today? What was the average price that residents paid for trash? You know, those sorts of things, measuring those KPIs. That's what I'm hoping we can spend a whole lot more time on in this process.
And we will. And the first, as we get into the key stakeholder meeting, I identify those elements, see where the bases are covered and what we need to integrate or add. That's where we get to explore the additional chapters.
On about page 5, under the schedule overview, first 24 months,
Mhm.
where we've got months 0 through 4,
Yes.
talks about draft goals. Are those already in place, or is that something that we're going to be doing? Who's going to be responsible for that?
The first key stakeholder meeting will look at those, and we're looking at possibly doing, or we're doing this, is looking at all those past reports, the status of everything, putting together 10, 15 question survey prior to that key stakeholder meeting so that we can all kind of be on the same page without spending a lot of time and spinning wheels on what's already been done. So at that point, we'll be able to draft the goals and objectives for the upcoming meetings and the program and see where you are.
Thank you.
So for clarification, the key stakeholder organizations, the one individual that's listed as the point contact for these organizations, we will meet at the first meeting to go over just what you said, but I know the citizens are interested in when can they participate. I would anticipate that subsequent stakeholder meetings going forward. I know the answer, but I want you to tell them.
Oh, you want me to tell you, everybody? Okay. Well, at that key stakeholder meeting, I mentioned we'll be putting together the marketing PR portal information into a true calendar. So we'll start to immediately get the survey up, a link on the website, invitations on social media posts to go take the survey. As things are coming up, if we're at the farmer's market, we'll be announcing that. So they'll be able to put it in all along the way. And then as we get to the next public meeting where you all will get to review it, then of course the preliminary draft will be extensively reviewed before anything is committed to there.
What role does the council play in general? Are we going to be getting in the weeds with everybody, or we're kind of in the back waiting to see the feedback and response, and
It depends.
it depends?
Yes, we've talked about possibly rotating some of you members in and out of the key stakeholder meetings to participate. Definitely oversight of what's going on. You'll get updates, you'll get feedback all along the way. And so that's how we hope to integrate your not only opinions, but your suggestions and oversight for the plan.
But not necessarily as key stakeholders.
Not necessarily, unless we decide, and this is up to you all if you want to rotate through the program, but we can look at that closer and see what we want to do. Okay. Thank you all so much.
I have Robert Cotello.
I did pass around a login for the first public meeting. If I can grab that, I would appreciate it. Great, thank you.
We have no one signed up. We're good? Okay, so next item on the agenda, discussion and action on awarding a construction contract for bid for the new Northeast Northwest Second Street Drainage Improvement Part 1 GLO CDBG MIT contract number 22085-020 D256 project. Robert?
I'm going to allow Tim Sanders give us an update. There's been a lot of activity on this since the last public special call meeting and public forum. But Tim will review the bid information with the council and citizens now.
Here, council, thank y'all for having me this evening. As Robert said, we had our bid opening this past Wednesday here in council chambers for the Northeast Northwest Second Street drainage project.
While you're looking, I want to update the folks that haven't heard. We do not plan to widen the streets. And we're going to minimize the loss of parking and again, work with all the business owners throughout the phases of the project to minimize the disruption.
To follow up on what Robert said as far as the street, I did at the last special meeting that y'all called where we went over the project, I'd given y'all some presentations. Well, based on conversations that Robert and I have alluding to keeping the sidewalk the same and going back to 60-degree parking with 9-foot wide spacing, I've updated those exhibits and I've left them for Robert for you guys to visit, as well as I have some 11x17s here that I can leave with Robert also. So y'all can have for y'all's records. Excuse me. As far as the project goes, in total, in addition to Bethco advertising in the Bastrop Advertiser, we sent the bid advertisement of the project to 52 contractors and 12 plan rooms during the bidding process. Of those contacted, a total of 9 contractors and 5 plan rooms requested plan sets and bid documents. At the bid opening, the city received 2 bids for the project, ranging from $1,918,417.67 to $2,729,922 even. The low bidder for the project was WJC Constructor Services of Smithville. For the project, as I mentioned to you guys at the last council meeting, our estimate for the project was $2 million. Thus, of the bids received, one was slightly lower than our estimate and one was higher than our estimate. In reviewing the bid tab, which is up on the screen and so forth, looking at the pricing for the various line items on the bid form provided by WJC, we didn't see any significant variation between the prices provided and our estimate. In short, basically the pricing given was generally within reason of what one could expect for the various scopes of work on the project. The total construction budget for the project approved as part of the GLO contract is $1,752,500. So based on the bids that we received, the low bid is approximately $165,917.67 above the approved construction budget in the GLO contract. Now, this particular project is one of 4 projects, parts of the overall GLO construction project. The other 3 parts that are part of this project, we have approximately $8,112,500 in construction dollars currently approved for those other projects as part of the contract. Given the amount needed to complete this project, the $165,000 and change, overall, it's a relatively small percentage of the overall approved construction dollars that we have currently allocated through GLO. It's roughly about 2%. Given the small amount, Bethco would recommend that construction dollars be reallocated to fully complete this project. And basically, what GLO allows you to do is if you have different parts, you can shuffle funds from one part to another part. And so given that, we still have $8 million in other parts, and we're talking about an additional $165,000, we would recommend, and we'd have to work with the grant administrator and get GLO approval on this, but basically reshuffle the funds, so to speak. And that's something that's fairly, I guess, common, would you say, Alyssa? Yeah, it's not unusual to do this. Finally, per review of the bid submittal, WJC, they did provide a complete bid submittal. They've successfully completed previous drainage and utility projects for the city. They completed the phase 1 part of this project, which we'll be tying into, that started off near Gasly Creek and came all the way over to Ramona Street. So they completed that portion of the project. They've also completed the drainage project that's over by the warehouse that was completed 4 or 5 years ago, Robert, roughly somewhere in there. And then they've also completed a few other projects for the city. And I know besides the city of Smithville, We've worked with them on in several other cities and so forth. So they're familiar with this type of work. Recently, they completed a little over $1 million project for myself in the city of Schulenburg. And it was laying new drainage pipe, laying new water line, and actually it was street reconstruction also with new curb and gutters, about 1,300 feet of street. So they're well versed in this type of work and qualified. In summary, BEFCO, we found that WJC is the lowest, most responsive bid for this project, and we'd recommend the city award the project to WJC in the amount of $1,918,417.67. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
First of all, you know, the elephant in the room is there's a massive delta between the two bidders. And so what would you, how would you describe what the driver is behind that?
It's
40 something percent.
Could be multiple things. Number one, looking at the two contractors themselves, one's a fairly small contractor, WJC, whereas Chasco is a fairly large contractor. From what I understand, I think Chasco has probably 350 employees, whereas WJC has significantly less. Based on what we found, when you have smaller contractors with larger contractors, generally smaller contractors have advantages, or they don't have near as much overhead as what you have as larger contractors. The other thing, what I would say too, and this has happened probably more within the last year as we bid projects, especially GLO type projects. Sometimes we find contractors may be submitting bids that they don't always submit. They could be courtesy bids. They could be submitting a high bid from the instance of what I equate to going fishing, you know, lay a line in the pond and see if you catch a big fish. Now, whether that's the case here with Chasco, I mean, I can't definitively say that. Looking through some of the bid items, they were substantially high in a few of the line items compared to WJC and my own personal estimate. So to answer your question, it's hard to pinpoint why there is that much difference. I would say if our own estimate wasn't close to WJC, I'd probably be a little bit more concerned. The fact that they hit pretty much on target with, or fairly close to with what we expected, I feel comfortable with their bid.
When you met last time, you talked about your bid or estimates, I think were close to 5 years ago, was what you said was when they were bid?
They were in 2020.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 4 years ago almost. And then when did GLO has an estimated or an allocated dollar amount for this section of the project? When was their allocation amount? Same time as your estimate was done?
Yeah, I mean, they allocate the money based on our estimates.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
okay. So they were both, but basically both done about 3.5 or 4 years ago.
Roughly, yeah.
So do you get transparency into general conditions when you see these bids to see kind of, because that's where that big overhead and the big organization generally is going to show up in their general conditions allocation or their contingency. Do you get that kind of transparency into those bids?
The way we structure our bids is basically we take your project, we identify all the various parts of the work, and we ask contractors to assign the.
Okay,
the,
so
the
they
pricing.
basically
So-
hide their general conditions in each of the line items. You don't get that kind of granular
The-
transparency.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. The other is as much maybe for Robert is, you know, how many, I know that this contractor's done a lot of work for us successfully. They did the first phase. How many change orders? Because that's where the real risk is when you take a low bid like this are the plans tight? And have they been third-party reviewed or peer reviewed? Are we going to end up with owner change orders? And what has been our history with this contractor relative to change orders?
Based on my own history of working with this contractor, change orders typically aren't an issue in that. The project that I mentioned to you there in Schulenburg, it was a $1.1 million project. And the total amount of change orders we had was about 10,000 on that project. And that was actually the reason we had that change order was because the city wanted to add something to
Right.
the project that wasn't planned. So based on my personal experience, for lack of a better word, they've not been a contractor that's change order happy. Let me say that.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Would you concur with that, Robert, on our prior experience?
Yes, sir, I would.
Okay. And then the last thing I'll have, and then I'll pass it. There's a lot of things that I would like to talk about a little later when we talk about the impacts to businesses and we've talked a lot about phasing. We've talked about disruptions. We tend to talk about parking spaces and striping and parking spot width, but things like dust and noise, there are some businesses over there like the massage business that it doesn't matter whether you're working on one side or the other. She's not going to be able to do massages during the day if you've got jackhammers and construction going on. So things that have to do specifically with phasing, when there's hours of operation, periods of notification, how much advance notice you need to give businesses, are those provisions written in the contract such that they're contractual obligations of the GC versus just they said they're going to do their best to work with us? I would like it to be more contractual than just they say they're going to work with us.
As far as dust control and so forth, that is part of the contracts. They have to control the dust. That's part of the conditions, and so forth. As far as, basically this is a calendar day contract. Generally the requirements are basically work 8 to 5 unless there's some other extenuating circumstances. As far as noise goes, I mean, unfortunately, there is demolition on this project, we can try to reduce that as much as we can, try to work around folks' schedule. Generally, what we have found is, contractors want it to go just as smooth as you do, because if it doesn't go smooth for them, or the neighbors, then your citizens are going to be talking to you, then you're going to be talking to Robert, Robert's going to be talking to me, and it all filters down. And, what we found is, contractors, they don't want to be catching the
So
brunt.
just to be clear, in the contract, they have an 8 to 5 requirement in the contract. They can only work 8 to 5.
We don't specify 8 to 5 now. In the pre-construction meeting, we talk about working hours and discuss that with them and our goals, and there's usually not an issue.
So,
As far as the specifying, there could be days they finish early, there could be days they finish late. Some days may warrant you to work an extended day if it means that you can maybe help somebody out. So no, we don't specify specific time.
because we have a lot of businesses, most of them are restaurants and some of them are represented here. They open at 5 o'clock. And so aside from lingering dust and maybe parking spaces that are blocked off overnight, they're not going to be as impacted by that as the mid-block. Charlotte has the massage that she's worked during the day. So they're working and they're not working on weekends. And so Honey's, and some of the others that are open on the weekend are not going to be as impacted by that. But there are a few that, may be impacted by that. And so, and it would be impacted, places like Front Room and others would be impacted by it if they worked after hours one night and they were trying to do something. So I'm just trying to figure out contractually, what kind of control do we have over them to minimize the impact to our businesses?
I mean, usually we discuss all of that at our pre-construction meeting.
And do you put it in the contract or you just talk about it?
We talk about it. Yes, sir.
And is it possible to put it in the contract if we agree on it at the
I
discussion?
would say at this point in time, if you want to add it to the contract, the contractor is going to have to be agreeable to it.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, and of course, if to be agreeable to it, it could end up potentially costing more also.
Okay. That's what I wanted to understand. Thank you.
Have people. Yes. I have quite a few, actually. First one is Steve Simmons.
Thank you.
So, tall guy. I'm Steve Simmons. I own Honey's. We've been there March 2nd for 8 years. And, focus on the positive. We flooded 74 times. And I know that because I've taken pictures every time. And all I got to say is I'm glad this is finally happening. It's long overdue. It's needed for the whole city. It's been ignored. And surprisingly, a lot of people don't know that Honey's, Front Room, the restaurants generate a good portion of your sales tax base. Because not only do we collect sales tax, we collect liquor tax, we pay property tax, we pay every tax that you can imagine, utility bills. So, you know, Honey's, for example, pays about $6,000 to $8,000 a month in taxes. And like I said, I'm focusing on the positive. It's long overdue. My furniture's damaged, my bar's damaged, my whole restaurant's damaged from all the flooding. But we persevere. And it'll be interesting to see how this impacts it. Because, you know, you're going to close the street down, and I'm glad it's going to, you know, keep the water from coming in. But how it affects business. Because if people can't get to you, they can't come spend their money. A lot of our customers are older people, and if they can't get to the building, then they can't come in. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I didn't say anything last time because I just like it. At this point, I'm just so relieved that it's finally going to happen. And of course, I won't count it happening until it's done because I'm skeptical after 8 years. So let's focus on the positive and move forward, and hopefully this will all go off without a hitch.
Thank you, Steve.
Robert Patello.
Robert Patillo, 606 Short Street. And do I need to add anything else to that part? No, just ask the question. Okay. So I'm concerned, I heard that we're not going to be reducing the size of the sidewalks. I think that's the best idea. We're not going to be widening the street. That's the best idea for that. But I also heard that.
Robert, you speak more into the microphone. They can't hear you.
So I heard that that the streetscaping is going to be done. It sounds like with the GLO I'm not sure if I heard that correctly, but if that means we're not going to do anything regarding preparing for streetscaping, then I think we're going to run into additional costs down the road if we don't at least put in water to water plants down the road. And the water lines need to be run before they put the sidewalks in order to avoid costs down the road. So what I was thinking is you could buried spigots or water access points, put the lines into the sidewalks before the sidewalks go in, and then you could put your hose bibs buried in the sidewalk or that sidewalk level so that they're not sticking up. That could be used by the store owners to clean their sidewalks. It could also be used to water trees and plants that are put in later on. And I think we would be wise to add that to the contract. That's my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
Chuck Watson.
Hello, Chuck Watson, 106 Northeast 2nd Street. And I just wanted to thank you guys for not taking our sidewalks. I don't know who all that was involved. I know a lot of you were, and I want to thank everybody that was involved in talking about that because I think they're really important for our town. I just want to say thanks.
Dane Garrison.
Council members, how are you? Dane Garrison, 608 Hickory Street, Texas. I've got over 5 years experience in disaster recovery. And through that, I'm through project management. I've seen lots of floods, ice storms, hurricanes. Number one thing in my batteries. Normally, the number one thing that I run across in disaster recovery during my time was preparedness. When we're not prepared, the worst is to come. And when I would show up most of the time during disaster recovery, the damage was already done. So when you have an opportunity for a grant of this size at minimal cost, we would always advise, move forward. Help your community. It is the number one priority. Disasters they're not invited. They come at will. We have no telling when we'll have 20 days of straight rain and when we won't. But I just ask to really take this in consideration. I've seen communities, I've seen leaders, full tears going, I wish we would have. It's something to think about. Thank you.
The last one is Lee Kogler. Okay.
I've said it all.
We want to read in Brian Wells's comments. Well, he had asked that it be submitted to all of us, and then I said this afternoon in an email that I would be willing to read it into the record. This is a letter from Brian Wells, who couldn't attend tonight, who was part of the meeting last week in conjunction with the ABCs to have a neighborhood discussion about the salient points to recommend to us for consideration. So per his email, number one, he says, per the city manager's recommendation, please do not reduce the sidewalk width as a part of this project. Number two, please consider giving citizen groups an opportunity to review the details of the sidewalk improvements and the pavement striping and suggest minor changes. The intent would be to provide these suggestions in a time and manner that does not impact the schedule or cost of the project. Examples of the types of items that should be available for further discussion are the location and number of handicap parking spaces and ramps, the configuration of handicap ramps and the selection of handrails, the continuous step along the sidewalk edge, the dimensions of the corner sidewalk bulbs, the directions of one-way traffic, etc. Item number three, the comprehensive plan should include milestones for citizen input. At least one of these milestones should occur during the design development of each design project when sufficient detail is included. The design document should be made public for review, followed by a citizen workshop. City council presentations are helpful and important, but not adequate to give citizens an opportunity to, am I on the? Citizen council presentations are helpful and important, but not adequate to give citizens an opportunity to comprehend the details of a project and provide informed input. Number four, the comprehensive plan should employ a professional that is competent to assess the city's condition and advise on both technical and aesthetic improvements. These types of plans are often led by a landscape architect, for example. Number five, please consider exploring the cost of extending and stubbing irrigation service from the water main to the sidewalk at least once per block to minimize the cost of future plantings that should be part of the comprehensive plan. Six, please explain why the existing water and wastewater mains are not being replaced as a part of this project to minimize the potential of replacing failed mains during the service life of the new street pavement. Thanks, Brian Wells.
Okay, Madam Mayor, you guys ready? I want to make a motion that we go ahead and we approve, award the construction contract for the bid for the Northeast Northwest Second Street Drainage Improvement, Part 1 GLO CDBG MIT contract number 22-085-020-Delta 256, and that the award go to WJC Construction Services LLC for the amount of $1,918,417.67.
I'll second that motion.
A motion been made in second. All in favor?
Mayor,
One,
may I interrupt,
two,
please? Yeah. The reminder that we follow the protocol of propose, debate, amend, and agree. I would ask if That's supposed to be our protocol. We propose, debate, amend, and I'm going to be offering an amendment.
She offered to give a motion. I did not know you had more discussion.
I know that's what I am stating, that our normal,
I mean, go ahead.
okay, thank you.
Proposed it, now you're gonna debate.
Yeah, well, not debate, I'm going to offer an amendment if you'd be amenable to it so that we can debate that and
Absolutely.
possibly agree to something. So exactly what you said, but adding to having heard some concerns brought up tonight, that we, and at the end of your amendment where you stated the amount to be awarded to WJC Constructor Services, I'd like to add with the caveat that to the extent possible, the contractor make accommodations for the city to pursue development of a pedestrian-friendly environment with aesthetic enhancements to be pursued by the city at a later date. Now, that's rather nebulous, but I was hoping that we could have the conversation, and I don't know if WJC is here tonight, but to what extent, and maybe Tim, you could help me. I want to make sure that the wording of this would be correct so that the intent is conveyed, is what we're trying to do is have a vision of a downtown area that is pedestrian friendly. So as we go through the construction, we make sure that we've protected the 10-foot wide sidewalks, that we've got a consistent alignment, and maybe we do a field survey and make sure that we don't have any areas that are jutting out. And if to the extent possible, and I think y'all are already doing it, Robert, I saw in one of your statements about making the bulbs more flexible. I'd have to find it, but the intent is that if we make it more flexible, so that at a later date, if the city wants to come in and plant trees or do other things, that we're able to do that.
Let me ask a question. We're in debate and discussion here. There was talk about retaining the existing sidewalk width. Everybody, I think, has agreed to that. And there was the suggestion of considering whether you could add water spigots. The most important thing to me is, does the contract, what Councilmember Bruno's motion was, does that specify that the sidewalks have to be maintained? Is that what's in the current plan? Because your motion is to approve it essentially as presented. And so my question is, we need to make sure, I think, that at least for my support, I would like to at least make sure the motion includes all of the changes that we've all agreed were going to be made, and that be part of the motion.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that, please?
Yes, what the plan is, as far as what they bid what we had discussed at the last meeting. This plan would be now, as we move forward tonight, is basically the city would execute a change order to change those quantities because there's going to be an increase in sidewalk quantities. There'll be
And a
tripling of
reduction
dollars.
in
Y-
an
yes.
offset.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so that is what the motion is to approve awarding the contract with that condition.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
that's not the existing contract. It would have to be,
yeah,
we're going to have to
that-
issue a
that-
change order. So I
that-
think your motion, if you want the sidewalk to be preserved, I think your motion needs to include that to it. Otherwise, we're approving awarding the contract as it is today, and it isn't like that today.
Right, yeah. Normally what we'd do is we'd award it for this amount, execute the contracts, and then basically execute the change order either after the contract or at the same time. In other words, generally when and we've done this with other cities, is the contractor signs the contract, gets his bonds, we get them back, we send them to the city, who then passes them on to the attorney to review.
Yeah.
Then they come back before Robert signs them. Basically, we can get that change order prepared. And then when Robert signs that contract, he also signs the change order at the same time.
Well, I'm only going to speak for me. My personal opinion is I have heard enough discussion and seen enough community engagement, and there's enough transparency. I think the city manager will use best efforts to sit down and make sure the business considerations are pursued. I think there's enough public record to that effect that that's what we all want. And I also think that there's enough public discourse about our interest in preserving the optionality for future. So we don't do anything with this contract that prevents us from enhancing our streetscape in the future. But what I would like in order to support your motion is that it include concurrently the execution of the change order such that we retain the sidewalk width as it is today. And I could certainly support that if you don't mind amending it to include that. I think it would be fine to just amend it to
Yeah,
say.
no,
that
I
it would include that.
amend what I just said. We're gonna award this for 1.918417.67 with a change order that's gonna integrate what we've all discussed, and what you've got written down and what you're gonna go over with the contractor and what we've all talked about tonight. And I can go into minutia here if you'd like on the, but we do want that change order to be in there. We talk about, we're not gonna lose 2 feet of sidewalk on either side of Northeast, Northwest Second Street. So that was something that came up.
That's in there.
And that's in there, correct? And that's it.
Yeah.
I,
And
I need to
like
make a,
said, the exhibits I
Okay.
brought here tonight and that I'm gonna leave with you, those reflect the 10-foot wide as well as the revised striping layout.
I need to clarify and be clear that it's a mitigation, not a beautification project. So things like adding hose bibs, water conduit
No.
are outside the scope of the GLO project.
Clear,
No.
that's not what I'm
Well, I was
proposing for
addressing-
my support. Yeah, I
Councilman
understand, but I just want to
Jameson.
be clear. I understand this is a mitigate, this is a drainage project. There's always a drainage and we're going to do, I mean, I'm going to support the drainage project. But I think I want to support it with the requirement that the change order be issued to retain the sidewalk width. Because I think we can do that within the context of pursuing it. It's not going to have any impact. Nobody has opposed to that, so.
No, and I was not trying to change this so that we incorporated the stubbing in and the other things. It's just, I want to make sure that we are on the record with the intent of the city might be moving forward to do that in the future because of the vision of having a pedestrian-friendly downtown. So I'm good with either version.
One more comment. I would be detrimental if I didn't say this. Now, if you want to do something of that nature, as you're mobilized and have the hole in the ground, we could put conduit in, but that would be at the cost of the city. Just want to be clear, outside of the GLO.
And I anticipated that. I just wasn't willing to go forward and ask us to commit that funding now. I just wanted
Fair
to make
enough.
sure it's something we could do at a later point, and I wanted it on the record tonight.
You got it?
Got all that, Jennifer?
You want me to say anything about the
It's
spaces?
not gonna be an amendment because it's just her amendment. Okay.
Amendment is
that's
the only
what I
one, which
have.
is to retain the sidewalk.
We've added enough verbiage now that I
So
think
we're,
the intent is
so
conveyed.
you have her verbiage. I asked for a second.
Do we need another second?
You need to, you need,
Yeah, I'll make another second.
Okay, so he seconded. All in favor? 1, 2, 5, approved.
thank you. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Discussion and action on a license agreement to encroach onto city property at 1308 Northeast 7th Street for a fence, owner Carl Wright.
All right, Council and Mayor, this is a request to license to encroach. Mr. Wright has a fence that is 7.5 feet into the city right of way. And Mr. Wright's coming up and
You just hand
I
him his
guess like
mic.
to
You're
address
welcome.
the
Put him
council.
right there. She'll hand you the mic.
You
Thank
can,
you.
you can pull the mic out,
Yes.
Mr. Wright. Yeah, there you go.
You may have to put, you may have to put it up to your, closer to your mouth. Oh. Uh-oh.
Some more money in the budget for batteries?
I have to hop our new metal.
Thank you, City Council. After my request, is somewhat difficult to follow up after the discussion about, flooding in Smithville. I'm one of the residents of Northeast 7th Street and had numerous floods all through, between 2010 and I don't know when exactly the retention area was put in, but that was a lifesaver to me. So thank you for that. I don't know if you want me to read through my letter or if you want just discussion. I'll be happy.
Hit the highlights of your letter, please.
What I'm looking at is, going slightly beyond my property line, to build a fence, for my newly acquired service dog. He requires to go outside to do his business, earlier than I get out of bed. And also to go outside later, after I'm already back in bed. Being a person in a wheelchair, I don't stay up in my wheelchair as long as, you know, y'all may be up and around and up and down and moving around and everything. So I'm asking for 8 feet beyond my property line to build the fence that is shown up above. That's, I was halfway. I was halfway, guys. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I have my front door has a electric opening system. And I lay in bed, I push a little button on my chair and it opens the front door while I'm still in bed. He goes out there into that front area. He's totally comfortable, fine, everything else, works perfectly. Once I get up at 10 o'clock, you know, we go on with our day, whatever it may be. And, he's coming along quite well as far as his training. He's gonna be a good service dog to me.
It's a very good looking fence. The only issue that we had was it was put up without a permit. We did validate and verify there are no utilities anywhere near the fence. So hence the license for encroachment. Should you choose not to authorize the license to encroach, Mr. Wright will have to pull up the fence and put it back on the property line. So that's where we are.
Does the license to encroach not come through P and Z? It comes directly to us?
Correct. It just comes to the council.
Have we had any neighbors with any objections to it? Are any
Not to
neighbors
my
here to
knowledge.
speak tonight?
The neighbors I have spoke with, they said, I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem. So
Robert, so in a license arrangement that's renewed every year or automatically, what is it? Is it permanent?
Permanent.
So if he sells his property, no longer lives there, does it go with property?
It goes to the property.
Okay.
Was if you sell the property, can we put something in it that you have to remove the fence? You've been here for many years. I want your life to be comfortable here, but I think this is
Yeah. Let
for
me,
your quality of life.
let me address that. That would then become a pre-existing non-conforming use that would, and is licensed to do so. If someone else were to tear that fence down, they would have to come back to the property line.
yeah,
That we approve the request to provide a license to encroach on city property at 1308 Northeast 7th Street for Mr. Wright.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Motion passes.
thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda. Where am I?
Number 10.
Oh, I didn't know if she needed some. Discussion, action, discussion and action, what?
Yeah, well, okay.
Whoa, what did I do?
No, it's my bad.
Oh, on renewal of the PHI Cares Air Medical Contract.
All right, council, mayor, and citizens, this is a contract that we entered into 2 years ago. This will be the third renewal. Basically, what this provides, it's a service, it's air medical transport service, and it is a contract that allows the free transport of people via air ambulance. As the crow flies, metropolitan areas have air transport. It's probably $10,000 to $15,000 a ride. But for us, the cost is 45 to 50,000 for a flight. There were 6 flights last year out of Smithville. I'm requesting that you consider approving this contract. It's for $13,272. It covers every citizen in Smithville, everyone in the household, while they're in Bastrop County. The contract also offers an option to buy up for $30 per year, where it's valid anywhere in the United States. If you use one flight, you've paid for it. So, any questions?
Just a quick question, Robert. If somebody needed to be flighted to the hospital, the Ascension Seton Hospital in Bastrop, will they accept PHI?
I'm sorry, will Ascension accept PHI?
Yeah, well, they have a heliport there. If you needed to be airlifted
Yeah.
on PHI, will they accept it? Because there's some discussion about hospital and ambulance services and having exclusive arrangements. And I want to understand, because the most likely place to take someone would be there to get there quickly for an ER. So will they accept PHI?
They will. It's a function of
Okay.
who's available,
Okay.
what air transport service is available. We prefer them to be exclusive to PHI.
Yeah.
Therefore, our citizens. won't get-
Right, but Ascension doesn't have a prohibition against PHI.
They do not.
Okay, thank you.
You're, we're kind of at a critical moment when the decision is made. So in order to make this work for a citizen, they have to specifically request that it be PHI, correct?
That's correct.
So I had a call from a Bastrop City Councilman last week who saw our agenda and called me about, because I think they're reviewing theirs too. Of the 6 transports that we've had, did anybody mention to you any problems they had with the billing experience?
I haven't gotten that granularity as to whom, for confidentiality reasons, was transported. I just found out that there were 6 transports from Smithville that used PHI Air.
But nobody brought to you any billing issues?
Did not.
And the other question was average response time if PHI was used, if we were to compare. We happen to have had 2 family members in the last couple of years who've been life flighted. They did not use PHI, and we did get a very rapid response. But one of the questions that he brought up to me was, is there a difference in response times between PHI or other available?
I think it's variable with how many birds are in the air. I don't have that data for you, but I haven't had any complaints thus far.
I make a motion that we approve the contract for PHI for all the citizens of Smithville.
I'll second that motion.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, passed, approved. Discussion and action on the ordinance to place stop signs on Burleson. Rotate the direction of the stop signs at Olive, Gresham, and Burleson, and replace yield signs with stop signs at Main. Chief Repka, you've been busy.
Please come to the podium, sir, and justify
State
your
case.
existence.
Yeah, justify your cause here. We have to get a grant for stop signs?
Oh, what? Right, right. I guess it just, I'm sure y'all have the map. I think Jennifer put out a map, so. As I spoke to a lot of you individually and in council, we have a lot of open intersections in town, and I'm just trying to strategically go through town and hit key areas. There's some long open stretches of people that I get complaints from. Like 6th and 7th will run all the way from Short to Main, and people just drive fast. That's the #1 complaint I have in the whole city. So basically, in layman's terms, I'm trying to create a checkerboard pattern throughout town. There's a lot of kids, families that walk, and there's some that you're stopping at every block, and then there's some that you're driving 5 or 6 blocks without stopping at all. So I'm trying to change that over time. And so that's a reflection of this here. Rotating some signs to create, basically you go 2, no more than 3 blocks before you hit a stop sign in any direction.
Is there room for additional input?
I'm sorry?
Room for additional input?
Always.
We missed our ride along.
I apologize. I had some dental issues that prohibited me from getting with you and Tyrone, and I apologize for that.
No, one specific request that I got from a citizen was talking about the possibility of a stop sign on 6th and Marburger. Just try and slow down the speeding that comes from when they turn on Marburger and head down to the loop. And maybe that stop sign at Sixth Street might put a little break into it.
Sure. And as y'all can see, this is a very small portion of town. This is gonna be a long, long project, and I'm working with Jennifer and our attorney right now to make it a little more open so that we can do some things instead of having to wait 2 or 3 months to come in with just a handful of stuff. So we're working on that right now, more of a master traffic plan, so that we can be a little quicker about getting it done. And so that's where I'm at now.
So Chief, we rode MLK. Is that for a future?
Yeah, but because those in our master traffic plan, I believe have been identified as major thoroughfares, there's something in the wording that requires like, some extensive and expensive, engineering studies that I think maybe next council meeting, we're gonna try to maybe eliminate that requirement.
Yeah. Because I think that stretch would really benefit. That's a long
Oh,
stretch, and there's a
100%.
park over there, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that go
100%.
fast.
I mean, it was 3 times this
Okay.
many changes in stop signs, but because of that verbiage, the attorney said that we have to eliminate that, which would be up to y'all. But as I rode with 3 out of the 5 of y'all and Robert and discussed it, a lot of it's just common sense. I don't know if it takes a bunch of money that the city has to spend to add stop signs to slow people down just a little bit.
Would Marburger be considered like MLK as a major thoroughfare, or would it be okay to do a stop sign at Sixth there?
I don't know exactly what in the deal. The ones we talked about were Short, Colorado, and MLK.
Well, I was
Those-
going to take you over to Marburger.
Oh, yeah. No, if you look, this is a very small portion of town. I mean, it'll eventually migrate all the way through the entire city. And I would like to do it all at one time, but for enforcement purposes and legalities, y'all have to pass each individual intersection. That's why they come in a list like this. And when you pass them, no different than the last round we did up on Hudgens, up in the north end, when we did, a certain block up by Tyrone's house. Y'all have to pass each individual one. That way, when somebody runs it, it's in ordinance and it can be enforced, and we have some legal teeth behind it to be able to enforce it. So this is by all means just another part of the start. This is gonna be a long process.
So this is the addition to the last, like you and I,
Sure,
this
yeah.
is the second.
yeah.
So
This is
gonna
the
be a
second wave. of
it'll be a
this.
4-way stop at Burleson and 8th is what we talked about, right?
Oh,
4-way.
it's there. It's
East,
there.
west, okay.
Yeah, it's there. The 2 stop signs there at Burleson and 8th, that will in effect make that, because that's got that weird little
Yeah,
jump to it.
yeah.
So there's really no,
Right,
so yeah.
right. East,
No,
west.
everything that, all the
East,
feedback
west,
I got
north,
from
south.
you all that were able to
Okay.
ride with me, everything you wanted was included in there. Because like I told you, the citizens speak to y'all.
Yep.
They don't come to me about every individual intersection. And so that's why I got a hold of all you guys, and I apologize again to Mitch and Tyrone. But we're gonna have more time to discuss this. This isn't like a one and done deal. So y'all will see me a lot about this, probably at every other council meeting for
You
sure.
got it.
Right?
A motion that we approve ordinance 2024-644 to adopt the ordinance along the recommendations that Chief Repka has presented.
Thank you, Chief Repka. Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's approved. I don't know if you're going to come back up here, but discussion and action on the ordinance to add a school zone sign at the 300 block of Hudgens Street.
So as y'all may or may not be aware, the First Baptist Church now operates as an actual school up till either the 5th or 6th grade. And so they approached me about some helping, keep that controlled with school zones. So I came up with a plan just to make that one block a school zone with the little crosswalk right there where they currently have one, to help them, the babies walk across pretty much all day. They eat lunch over there in the community room and do other activities. So this is just to help them out, keep the kids safe when they're walking back and forth. I'm sure we've all seen it. There's a big line of them, pretty much a lot throughout the day. And now that they have up to this 5th or 6th grade, is a lot more kids are
You have a
walking back
question?
and forth there.
No, have a motion? Come on.
Mayor, I move that we pass an ordinance to add a school zone sign on the 300 block of Hudgens Street.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? Approved. Oh, it's Cynthia's favorite time. Approval of the financial report. So much going on.
Okay. You should have received in your package the February financial report. As you can see, revenues are at 7.6 of our $15 million budget. Expenses are about the same. We're pretty much where I expect to be at this time of the year. General fund is still looking good. The general reserves are definitely still looking good. And the utility fund is improving each month. I don't know if y'all have any specific questions about the report.
Do you normally put the check register in here? And I missed it.
Normally, I mean, I give it to Jennifer. It might not have.
I like looking at that, but it's not there, so we'll get it later.
I know I've been uploading these electronically, but I didn't do the check register, but we can.
Cynthia, just a couple of questions. One is, I noticed on utility penalties, we really, we're running farther ahead than budget on penalties. Is there any explanation behind that? Are we just clearing a backlog, or is there a reason there was a spike in utility penalties? Just penalties?
Just penalties. I mean, whatever people don't have paid by the 15th of the month now, they don't get penalized until the 15th. But I mean, if
But there is a concerted effort to reel that back in from the 60/90 to the 30/60
I mean,
and
I'm
keep bringing it down. So it
doing
benefits both the
cut-offs.
city and the people who get behind. And we're working with CCA and every St.
Yeah.
Vincent de Paul, the Ministerial Alliance to provide assistance where assistance is
The
needed.
other thing I'd point out is we had discussion earlier about the success of the recycle. I noticed that we budgeted only 6,000. We're already over that, and we're
Yes.
just partially through the year. So are we getting a higher price? Are we getting a new buyer? What is it? What's going on that
It's
we're?
memberships.
But that,
No.
no, but the sale of recyclables it's a separate line item. We're actually selling stuff for a lot more than what we budget. We're already over budget. We're just a few
Well, and
months
then
into the
some
year.
of that was also Edward's department has some stuff in the sale of recyclables on the electrical line item, which is
Okay.
not outside of
Okay.
our
right.
normal
Okay.
recycle
Because
center.
at this
It just
rate,
got
we would
coded
be
in the
picking up
same.
a lot more revenue from just selling recyclables. I was wondering if we got a new buyer or if we're getting better prices.
We're gonna get a new buyer.
Okay.
We
But that
talked to Brumley
explains it.
for that.
Yeah, okay.
But the big part of that was
Was that-
extra for his
okay.
this year that wasn't planned.
Yeah, while you're looking up your next question, I'm pleased to report that the fuel costs are 35% less this month than they were during January when we had the 6 days of consumption was up, and that drives the fuel cost down going forward.
And my last question is on the debt service recap. I think this is kind of always the case, but we're 5 months, I guess, into the fiscal year. And we've got, considerable front-end loading of all of that. Is that just the way that the
Yeah, that's the
amortization?
timing of when the payments are due. Like this month, I made 3
Okay,
of our tax note payments and
Okay.
stuff, and they're due at this time, and that's just a.
that's just, okay.
And their first one is usually a principal plus the interest, and then their second one is usually just a small interest, so it's usually front.
So just like everything else, you straight line budget these
Yeah,
payments throughout the year.
and I
So-
have
okay.
no control
thanks.
over when it's due.
I make a motion that we approve the financial report as it stands.
I second that emotion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, motion approved. The city council will hold an executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Governor Code, Vernon's Texas Code, annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.074 to discuss personnel. That was pretty. I think I've lost all my pages.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we're missing.
It's okay. Okay, so discussion and action as a result of the executive session is a completed progress review. City manager, we have discussed the cash-based performance-based equity incentive for the city manager for the next meeting. Adjourned. Okay.